A story was told about two brothers who were rich but very wicked. Both lived a very wild life, using their wealth to cover up the dark side of their lives. It's a miracle the sound comes up. So they attended the same church and gave large sums to various church-related projects. Suddenly, one of the brothers died, and the pastor was asked to preach on his funeral. The surviving brother handed the pastor an envelope with a check that will pay for the entire amount needed for the church's renovation and a note saying, "I ask only for one favor, Father. Tell the people at the funeral that my brother was a saint." So the pastor agreed and hurried to the bank to deposit the check. The next day at the funeral, the pastor said, "This man was an ungodly sinner, wicked to the core, but compared to his brother, he was a saint." So today, we celebrate the Feast of All Saints. This is a many-layered feast. It began in the early church to celebrate the many martyrs whose names had not been recorded and hence could not be individually commemorated. They were, after all, our role models. They had triumphed. They were the ones who, in the words of the first reading, had washed their robes in the blood of the Lamb. We were to take encouragement from them. We need to take comfort in the fact that those holy ones who have gone before us still care and want us to follow in their footsteps. Our readings convey the message that we are all called to be saints. Sadly, today, they are reduced to something we see in stained glasses, woods, marble, or plaster as decors. It is uncommon to hear someone talking about saints in connection with their own spiritual life. Thus, the risk making this feast seem unnecessary. But today, this day is necessary. We need to hear what this feast says to us. The lives of these holy people, the saints, assure us that there is something greater, beautiful, and rewarding experience God has prepared for each of us when we remain faithful to Jesus Christ. So our readings today remind us of these great things that await us. The first reading from the book of Revelation tells us of the wonderful mix of nations, races, colors, language, together as one in worshiping God in the heavenly liturgy. In our second reading, that reminds me, when we were having lunch this afternoon, Father Leo said, in this house, there are three countries, Philippines, India, and Venezuela. Three different kinds of food. So in the rectory now, it's multicultural. But in our second reading, John reminds us that we can't exactly tell or know what really would become of us in heaven. But all we know is that we will see God as He is. We are all looking forward to that moment. And in our gospel, the Beatitudes provide us the blueprint for living the Christian life. We are all called to be saints and named so through baptism. So before we imagine that saintliness and holiness are unattainable to lesser mortals like us, let me share with you one of the saints you are familiar with here in our parish, Saint Peregrine. So Peregrine was a man of violence and anger when he was young. He joined the enemies of the Pope in his hometown and soon became a ringleader of rebels. Pope Martin IV placed his hometown under a spiritual interdict, which closed churches, hoping to bring its citizens to their senses. That failing, he sent Philip Benizi, now St. Philip Benizi, of the Order of Servites, the servants of Mary, as his personal ambassador to try to bring peace to the angry rebels. The papal delegate, St. Philip Benizi, was not welcome. While addressing crowds of malcontents, one day, Philip was dragged off the rostrum, beaten with clubs, and pelted with rocks. Peregrine knocked him down with a vicious blow to the face. Moments after, stricken with remorse, the young man cast himself at the feet of the bruised and bleeding priest and asked for his forgiveness, which was granted with a smile. So he turned away from his former way of life and joined the Servites priest, the community of Philip Benizi. As a Servite priest, one of his slogans is, "Better today than yesterday, better tomorrow than today." So to atone for past misdeeds, he treated himself harshly and worked hard for the poor and afflicted. So Saint Peregrine, like any other saints, worked to be what this gospel is calling us to be poor in spirit, to be meek, to be merciful, to make peace. This is how we begin to become what Jesus called blessed and what the church calls saints. The saints were not perfect. They were not born saints. They were also sinners like all of us. All Saints' Day beckons us to something beautiful. It reminds us of our great potential, the promise that lies within each of us, the promise of holiness. So it is the promise that was fulfilled in the countless people we venerate today, our models, our companions, our inspirations, our guides. All the saints, they give us blessed hope. So let us thank God for the gifts of saints, people who were once like us, but have assured us that those sinners, we still have the capacity and the opportunity to become saints.